The rain had not stopped for 3 days. In the small town of Sialkot, where the streets turned into rivers and the air smelled of damp earth and rust, a man named Rafiq sat under a broken shop's tin roof, hugging a small bag close to his chest. He wasn't waiting for anyone. He was just trying to stay dry. Inside the bag were all his belongings: a torn shirt, a rusted shaving razor, and an old flute that no one wanted to hear anymore. Rafiq used to play music at weddings, on the roadside, or anywhere people gathered. But the world had changed. People now walked fast, eyes on their phones, ears plugged with plastic buds. His tunes were no longer the background of their evenings. They passed him by as if he didn't exist. That morning, he had earned only 20 rupees, not enough even for a cup of tea. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. He closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "Maybe I should sell the flute. At least I'll eat." But the thought pierced him like a knife. That flute was the only thing left from his father, the man who had taught him how to make people smile with sound. Just then, he heard a voice behind him. "Uncle, why don't you play anymore?" Rafiq turned. A small boy stood there barefoot, holding a soaked school bag over his head. His eyes were bright, curious. Rafiq forced a smile. "No one listens now, Beta. Music doesn't fill stomachs." The boy thought for a second, then said, "Maybe they don't listen because you stopped playing." That sentence hit Rafiq harder than hunger. The boy ran off before Rafiq could respond, leaving those words echoing in his mind. He looked at the flute again. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. Something inside him shifted. Not hope, not yet, but a flicker of something close to it. That evening, instead of his usual spot near the bus stand, Rafiq walked to the city park, a place full of joggers, couples, and the office workers escaping the noise of life. He found a bench under a large banyan tree and began to play. Not the fast, joyful tunes he used to perform for tips, but something softer, something real, a melody of hunger, loneliness, and faded dreams. The sound was raw and haunting. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. People began to slow down. Some stopped. One man, holding a cup of coffee, filmed him on his phone. A little girl came forward and dropped a 5-rupee coin near his feet. For the first time in years, Rafiq saw faces listening. Not to a beggar's music, but to a story without words. He didn't know it then, but that video went viral that very night. The next morning, when Rafiq returned to the park, a group of college students were waiting for him. "Uncle, you're the flute man of Sialkot," one of them said, grinning. "People are sharing your video everywhere." Rafiq didn't understand at first. "What's viral? Is it bad?" he asked, worried. They laughed. No, it means everyone loves your music. You've touched people's hearts." They handed him a small phone and showed him the video. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and messages like, "This music reminds me of my father," and "Who is this man? He plays with soul." Rafiq's eyes filled with tears. He hadn't been forgotten after all. In the following weeks, people came to the park just to listen. Some brought tea, some brought friends. A local cafe owner invited Rafiq to perform every weekend, not as charity, but as an artist. Soon, a music teacher from Lahore found him and offered to record his tunes for a small documentary on forgotten street musicians. When Rafiq heard his flute's sound in a studio for the first time, echoing through real speakers, he couldn't believe it. The same old flute, chipped and worn, now sounded grand, as if the years of struggle had turned its cracks into texture. But when the interviewer asked him, "Sir, what changed your life?" Rafiq smiled. "A small boy who asked me a big question." Months later, Rafiq started a small street music school for underprivileged kids. He taught them how to play with feeling, how to make simple instruments out of bamboo, cans, and old bottles. He didn't teach them for fame or money. He taught them because he knew what silence felt like, and he never wanted any child's talent to go unheard again. His students called him Ustad Rafiq. Some of them later went on to perform in local shows, earning enough to support their families. Rafiq still lived simply. Same old room, same broken chair, same tea shop every morning. But his heart was full. One afternoon, a reporter asked him, "Ustad, what's your secret to success?" He chuckled softly. I stopped playing for coins and started playing for hearts. The coins followed. Years later, the city built a small stage in the park and named it the Flute Corner. Every weekend, young musicians gathered there to play, and people came to listen, not out of pity, but out of respect. And on a quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rafiq sat on his old bench with the same flute, now polished and repaired. A familiar sound of laughter reached his ears. It was that same boy, now grown up, visiting with friends. Rafiq smiled, waved, and said, "You were right, Beta. They listen now, because I play." Moral of the story: sometimes the world doesn't ignore you. It just waits for you to speak your truth. When you express your struggle honestly, not for approval but for purpose, the world finds you. Real change doesn't always begin with opportunity. Sometimes it begins with a moment of realization, when you decide to stop asking, "Why don't they see me?" and start asking, "What do I have that the world needs to hear?" Because even the sound of empty pockets can turn into a song if you dare to play it.